Aloha, namaste. My name is Janapati Das. Welcome again to the Bhagavad Gita, readings from the Bhagavad Gita. Please accept my respects, everyone. Thank you for commenting and listening to the videos on my channel. If you haven't subscribed, or if you have any friends who would like to subscribe to my channel, please encourage them to do so. I'd like to also take this opportunity to offer my most humble obeisances unto my Guru Dev, Jagat Guru Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Srila Prabhupada, and upon the obeisances, humble obeisances unto Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, my spiritual grandfather, who translated and purported upon this Bhagavad Gita as it is. This is the 1972 version, just in case you just joined. There are different editions. This is the best one to get. You can get it on different websites, but make sure it's the 1972 original edition. As instructed by Lord Chaitanya and great saintly people persons, we're going to chant, and then we're going to continue into chapter 2, what we were reading. Swarupananda Paramahamsa Namine Gonakaru Swarupai Radha Krishna Prasayate Namo Siddha Swarupananda Paramahamsa Namine Gonakaru Radha Krishna Prasayate Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Haribol. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my most humble obeisances unto. Okay, so continuing, text 47. We're continuing through this, and the last time, well, actually I haven't quite posted this yet, but the video is still uploading, but the talking about the men of the, the men, people with poor funds of knowledge, generally, either at the most extreme level, they are atheistic. But the so-called religious man who follows the rules and regulations just to obtain sense gratification in heavenly planets or whatnot. And so the Vedic, most of the Vedas, the Karmakanda part of the Vedas, we explained, is for people who want to enjoy in the material world. They're not really ready to surrender, but they're given an opportunity to engage in religious processes that elevate their consciousness, so that maybe in the next life or in some lives down the line they might come to Krishna consciousness. So the goal is actually in the Vedas is to get to Krishna, whether directly, hook or crook, direct, or the side way, a long way around. And Krishna is telling that all the purposes of the small ponds are achieved by the large reservoirs of water. So in other words, all these rules and regulations can be achieved by the chanting of Krishna's names, because that is the goal that we're going for. Text 47, Karmani evadir dikarashte nafaleshu kadachana ma karma falda keturbur. Ma te sangostu karmani. Karmani, prescribed duties. Eva, certainly. Adhirkala, right. Te, of you. Ma, never. Faleshu, in the fruits. Kadachana, at any time. Ma, never. Karma phala, in the result of work, of the work. Hetu, cause. Bu, become. Ma, never. Te, of you. Sangha, attachment. Astu, be there. Akarmani, in not doing. And then we have this word karmani, which are the prescribed duties, and karma, akarmani, in not doing. So this is the opposite, right? Translation. You have the right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. Never consider yourself to be the cause of the results of your activities, and never be attached to not doing your duty. So the karmic reactions, in this case, Krishna is telling Arjuna that you have a right to perform the duty of being a kshatriya, but you are not entitled to whether you win or lose. That is ultimately Krishna's. There are three considerations here: prescribed duties, capricious work, and inaction. Prescribed duties refer to activities performed while one is in the modes of material nature. Capricious work means actions without the sanction of authority, and inaction means not performing one's prescribed duties. Okay, so there are these three things: the things that you do in the material nature, the things that are not sanctioned. So they're actually karmic reactions to the things that are in the Karmakanda. There are actual particular things that are prescribed to do. And capricious work means pretty much what everybody's doing now. It's just like things that are, we talk about karmic reaction. It's a lot of things that actually are not sanctioned by scriptural injunctions at all. Doing very sinful activities, abortion, or incest, or lust, or adultery, or so many things that basically are not sanctioned by scriptural things that people engage in, and then not doing your duties. The Lord advised Arjuna not to be inactive, but that he performed his prescribed duty without being attached to the result. So he's telling Arjuna, don't go off to the forest. That is inaction. That's not that you're not doing your duties, but do your duty for me without attachment to the fruit of or sense gratification, the fruit of results of such thing. Whatever comes will come, regardless of whether we hankering after it or not. One who is attached to the result of his work is also the cause of the action. Right? One who is attached to the result of his work is also the cause of his action. So being attached to the activity engaged in karmic reactions. Thus, he is the enjoyer or sufferer of the results of such an action. So if you want the fruits will come, but you will have to suffer the results of such an activity. As far as prescribed duties are concerned, they can be fitted into 3 subdivisions, namely routine work, emergency work, and desired activities. Routine work, in terms of scriptural injunctions, is done without desire for results. As one has to do it, obligatory work is action in the mode of goodness. Work with results becomes the cause of bondage. Therefore, such work is not auspicious. Everyone has his proprietary right in regard to prescribed duties, but he should act without attachment to the results. Such disinterested obligatory duties doubtlessly lead one to the path of liberation. Arjuna was therefore advised by the Lord to fight as a matter of duty without attachment to the results. His non-participation in the battle is another side of attachment. So that's a really important point, so that, we talk about detachment, and you think, like, if I go away from this battle and I don't kill, then I won't be attached to it, because I'll just go off to the forest and be a yogi. But there is this desire to enjoy the results of his family members living, of not being able to being attached. So he's actually being attached because he's also doing it for a result. He's also doing it for his own desires. So any attachment, positive or negative, is cause for bondage. Inaction is sinful. Therefore, fighting as a matter of duty was the only auspicious path of salvation for Arjuna. So that's being said. Text 48. Yogashtaha kuru karmani sangam tavaktva dhananjaya siddhi ashidyo samobhutva samatvam yoga uchyate. Yogashtaha, steadfast in yoga. So there's a yogashtaha, steadfast in yoga. Kuru, perform. Karmani, your duty. Shangam, attachment. Tavaktya, having abandoned. Dhananjaya, O Dhananjaya. Siddhi ashidyo, in success and failure. Samaha, the same. Bhutva, having become. Samatvam, evenness of mind. Yoga, uchyate, is called. So some very interesting words in here. This idea of like attachment, duties, being steadfast, evenness of mind. This is sort of what we had been talking about before, not being attached to the dualities of the material world. Krishna tells Arjuna that he should act in yoga. Yoga is a very interesting word. It actually means to connect, and ultimately to connect to the Supreme. So the English word for yoke comes from the word, when you yoke an animal, you connect them to the cart. So in yoga, yoga is an activity, eternal activity to reconnect oneself with the Supreme. So Krishna is telling Arjuna to act in yoga, to basically do his duty without attachment, but to be doing it in connection to Krishna, aka Krishna consciousness. Krishna tells Arjuna that he should act in yoga. And what is that yoga? Yoga means to concentrate the mind upon the Supreme by controlling the ever-disturbing senses. And who is the Supreme? The Supreme is the Lord. And because he himself is telling Arjuna to fight, Arjuna has nothing to do with the results of the fight. Gain or victory are Krishna's concerns. Arjuna is simply advised to act according to the dictation of Krishna. The following of Krishna's dictation is real yoga, and this is practiced in the process called Krishna consciousness. So the dictation, there is Krishna's way. The only way is Krishna's way. So Krishna dictates the way that we need to act to reinstate or reconnect our relationship with Krishna and to be truly in our natural state. And this is also expanded or shown by the external manifestation of Krishna as the spiritual master. The spiritual master is dictating what Krishna wants to the disciple, as Krishna dictates to Arjuna. This is the way that you go to the path. This is what you're supposed to do. This is the duty. Do your duty. Go down that path, I'm not going to fight, the spiritual master doesn't guide you. In other words, doesn't pull you down the road, as my spiritual master once said. The spiritual master's job is to show you the way down the path back to Krishna. And you need to walk that path. If you throw yourself down on the ground in the middle of the path, you're going to be, by doing things that are not sanctioned by Krishna, you will be at that point. That's, the spiritual master, it isn't his job to, come on, we got to go, come on, we got to go. He's telling you, but you got to be able to be the one that gets up. He doesn't force you. He doesn't whack you with the stick, as he says. By Krishna consciousness only, one can give up the sense of proprietorship. One has to become the servant of Krishna or the servant of Krishna. That's the spiritual master, right? That is the right way to discharge duty in Krishna consciousness, which alone can help one to act in yoga. So giving up owner of proprietorship of I am the master of my world, it's a very difficult thing to just say, I'm going to give it up, because our mind, we are dictated by our desires. And only by engaging our life in Krishna consciousness, in the service of our spiritual master in Krishna, can we get the higher taste so that we are actually attracted to serving Krishna and not trying to be the Lord and Master, not being attached to the results of our activities, but engaging our activities in the service of Krishna and our spiritual master. Arjuna is a Kshatriya, and as such, he is participating in the Varnashram Dharma institution. It is said in the Vishnu Purana that in the Varnashram Dharma, the whole aim is to satisfy Vishnu. No one should satisfy himself, as it is the rule in the material world, but one should satisfy Krishna. So unless one satisfies Krishna, one cannot correctly observe the principles of Varnashram Dharma. Indirectly, Arjuna was advised to act as Krishna told him. We're in a material world in a contaminated state where we want to try to enjoy. So we're actually still engaging in Krishna's service through the agency of material nature, or Maya Devi. We're falsely, Maya Devi gives us this illusion of like we are in control, we are enjoying, we are happy in this state. But actually we know, anybody with any kind of intelligence knows that just doesn't work out really well. I mean, you think, oh, I'm the Lord and Master of all that I survey, and I was thinking, more recently, just like sort of pop news kind of things. There was this CEO at a Coldplay concert recently, and he was there, and they have these, he had very, very expensive seats. So this is a CEO. He's really well known. He's respected. He's, admired, and he's the head of this, he's a multi-billionaire, right? Billionaire, right? So he's at a Coldplay concert in very expensive seats. And of course they have these cameras that go around, and then the camera goes on him, and he's got a woman in front of him, and then suddenly, the singer's all like, oh, that, because suddenly they realize they're on this screen and everybody can see, and they start hiding. They're just freaked out, right? Because it turns out that he was having an affair with his HR person in his company, and he got caught. And the singer on the stage also said, oh, he's either very embarrassed or they're having an affair, just as a joke, but it was actually the truth. The poor wife didn't even know. So this just goes to show, it's like you try to act in this under this illusion of thinking that I am in control, I'm the enjoyer, and I can do what I want to do because I'm the Krishna, in their mind. But actually, we're not in control, as we've seen. Krishna, and our point and purpose of our life is to engage our activities in the service of Krishna. This is our normal activities. Krishna is the, unless one satisfies Krishna, one cannot correctly observe the principles of our ashram dharma. So that is, like we were saying, there may be a lower stage of rules and regulations, but ultimately the person has to come to a point of giving up the material sense gratification to become more attracted to Krishna, and just realize it's not about these small ponds. It's actually about the large ponds, or the large reservoirs of water. It's about Krishna, serving Krishna. And this is our direct path. So indirectly, Arjuna was advised to act as Krishna told him. As a spiritual master, of course, instructs the disciple on what to do, but the disciple has to make that decision, right? He's telling you, this is what you got to do. And a lot of times, like Arjuna's like, I don't want to fight this battle. There's no really any good reason that I can see. All these things that he thinks he he knows, and forgetting who he's talking to, right? So text 49, Durena Hira Varanam Karma, Buddhi Yogad Dhananjaya, Buddhao Saranam Anvicha, Kripanaha, Phala Hetavaha. Durena, by discarding it at a long distance, he certainly, avaram, abominable, karma, activities, Buddhi Yogat, on the strength of Krishna consciousness, Dhananjaya, O conqueror of wealth, Buddhyal, in such consciousness, Sharanam, full surrender, Anvicha, desire, Kripana, the misers, Phala Hetavaha, those desiring fruitive actions. O Dhananjaya, rid yourself of all fruitive activities by devotional service and surrender fully to that consciousness. Those who want to enjoy the fruits of their work are misers. So great verse, another great verse. Surrender to Krishna consciousness, that's what it's saying, because the fruitive activities, like is stated in the Svetavatana Upanishad, the living entity and the super soul are two birds on a tree. The living entity sees the fruits on the tree and tries very difficult to enjoy, thinking that the fruit on the tree is going to bring him happiness, but is really only bringing them misery. And the super soul waits for the other Jivatma to turn around, to realize that his happiness is not in trying to find his own sense gratification, but to actually serve Krishna. Just like a miser, this Scrooge, they're like, I gotta gather all this stuff. I've gotta have everything. I gotta have the, more money, more women, more, it's just like this kind kind of like shooting drugs, gotta have more and more and more. It's just like you get empty, more and more empty. The hole in your heart gets more and more empty, just like misers. And so in that story, Scrooge by Charles Dickens, Scrooge was very, very dark and unhappy and bah-humbug, and realized because he was miserly, trying to hoard things. Purport: one who has actually come to understand one's constitutional position as spirit soul, as the eternal servitor of the Lord, gives up all engagements save working in Krishna consciousness. So that's the goal, right? Is that the more we become attracted, the more faith we have in our spiritual master in Krishna, the more we can sense that in our heart, our relationship with Krishna in our heart. The other things seem so petty and ridiculous and just like eating dog shit, really. We're just eating dog shit. Why eat dog shit when you can have the creme de la creme of the food of the spiritual life? As I already explained, Buddha Yoga means transcendental loving service to the Lord. Such devotional service is the right course of action for the living entity. It's a normal action. We are by nature, we are servants. We are servants. And even as it's said in the Bob Dylan song, you got to serve somebody. It might be the Lord, it might be the devil, but it might be the Lord, but you got to serve somebody, right? So that this is our nature. And you'll see in the material life, this servitude attitude ultimately has to it plays out all the time. I serve as a father, I serve my children. As a husband, I serve my wife serves me. As a teacher of the state of Hawaii, I serve the state and the children that I teach. And so even powerful positions, the politicians and leaders of this world have to serve their populace. Otherwise they get mad and they execute you or they vote you out of office, at least in a democratic state. In a dictatorship, they may just throw you out of power right away, and that happens all the time. So the service attitude is always there, and it's always this way naturally in devotional service, in spiritual life. We are eternally servants of Krishna, and that is our happy state. We're happy. And we're just also happy when we serve people. You see these situations where there's some great tragedy and people just feel like they need to do something, either give money or go out and help. You have these great floods in Texas. People come out and they try to help find people. They help organize food drives for people who don't have food, or housing for people. You see it all the time because people feel good when they want to serve people. And the service attitude is a natural spiritual tendency that because we want to ultimately serve Krishna, we want to serve others as well, because those are Krishna's children. We want to serve and protect Mother Earth, Mother Bhumi. So there are ways and means of serving, but this is like watering the root of the tree. We go straight to Krishna and develop our relationship with Krishna, and everything else kind of just opens up. All the leaves open up, all the branches grow out, all the tendencies to help other people are naturally there in our heart, because we're not attached to like, well, am I gonna get a reward for doing this, or I'm gonna do it because it makes me feel good, but ultimately it's because it makes me feel good and it's pleasing to Krishna. Only Mayas desire to enjoy the fruit of their own work, just to be further entangled in material bondage. Except for work in Krishna consciousness, all activities are abominable because they continually bind the worker to the cycle of birth and death. Yeah, the activities of trying to engage in our sense gratification in this material world continuously bind us in the karmic reaction in this world. And it's really surprising to me that people do not make that correlation with all the suffering that goes on in the world, the amount of suffering that you actually, to try to satisfy yourself with fruitive activities is actually a very selfish. just for that sake. It's just a selfish activity because it caused so much suffering, environmental degradation, killing of species, killing of other living entities, all kinds of problems. Overconsumption is like a major problem for suffering in this material world. And overconsumption comes from this desire to try to be happy, to try to engage in this filling of our heart, which is really naturally done through our service to Krishna. But we try to find it for our own pleasure, and it does nothing but digs holes in our heart and creates spiritual a vacuous sort of like emptiness in our spiritual life, and causes suffering wherever we go. Everyone should be done in Krishna consciousness for the satisfaction of Krishna. Misers do not know how to utilize the assets of riches which they acquire by good fortune or by hard labor. One should spend all energies working in Krishna consciousness, and that will make one's life successful. Like the misers, unfortunate persons do not employ their human energy in the service of the Lord. Text 50. Buddhi yokta jahatiha ube shukrita duskriti tasmad yogaya yujashva yogaha kalamashu kal shalam. Buddhi yukta, one who is engaged in devotional service. So yukta is also a word that's related to, it means to connect oneself. Or to be engaged in this case, right? Buddhi is that Buddhi yoga is bhakti yoga. And Buddhi is using one's spiritual intelligence to engage yourself in devotional service. Jahati can get rid of. Iha, in this life. Ube, in both. Sukrita, duskrite, in good and bad results. Tasmat, therefore, yogaya, for the sake of devotional service. Yujashva, to be so engaged, yogaha, Krishna consciousness, karmashu, in all activities, kashalam, art. A man engaged in devotional service rids himself of both good and actions even in this life. Therefore strive for yoga, O Arjuna, which is the art of all work. Beautiful, I love that. So we're foreshadowing this karma yoga that we're going to get into in the next chapter. Basically, a man engaged in devotional service for the sake of Krishna without attachment for the results rids himself, is not obtaining good or bad karma. That's what it says, good or bad actions. Karma means is actions in English. So you strive for yoga. Yoga is that connection. It's that balance. It's that equilibrium of not being dualistic, of just being focused on service to Krishna. And it is the art of all work. The epitome, right? The art of all work. Love that. Purport. Since time immemorial, each living entity has accumulated the various reactions of his good and bad work. So they say time immemorial because for a lot of living entities, that is like there is no certainty when we came back into the material world, but we have been engaged in activities. I mean, consider. That's why a lot of times our karmic reactions are great, and when we try to act in the sadhana bhakti, it's very challenging because we've been trained to do things a certain way, like a monkey says monkey do, our mind is just like trained to do things, so it's hard. Okay, no, I'm not going to put that on there anymore. The mind is still kind of boop, 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 jumping around there. As such, he is continuously ignorant of his real constitutional position. So being engaged in this web of samsara, birth and death and rebirth, of karmic reactions by the activities that we do to try to find our own satisfaction, we're basically caught in this hellish situation. And what great faith, great opportunity that we have had to come into contact with Krishna's names, or with the devotee of Krishna, is so fortunate, because otherwise we are ignorant of who we really are. We just keep thinking, I'm a human, I'm this person, I'm this age, I'm this, or I'm a dog, I'm in a dog body, I'm in a dog, and I like to lick my butt, and I just chase balls and run after the postman, and then I chase after cats and wait for my master to come home, and then maybe my next life I'm a flea jumping around. I think I'm a flea, and my life is to suck blood out of me. It's just like constantly ignorant of we don't even know. Okay, well, maybe in our last life we were a human, or we don't even know. Once upon a time, or not even once upon a time, now I am an eternal spirit soul of Krishna. When we come into a human form of life, it's so rare and so wonderful. We have an opportunity to engage about our life. That is a propensity that we have as spirit souls in a human body. And so many humans waste their life trying to engage the same way in animal activity: eating, sleeping, mating, defending, which you have to do, but eating, sleeping, mating, defending for the sake of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. We don't take that propensity to inquire, why am I suffering? What's the purpose of my life? Who am I? What am I supposed to be doing in my life? When we come into contact, and a lot of people may even think that, but they don't come into contact with a devotee of Krishna, they're not able to know exactly the truth, so they just don't think about it, or they think wrongly about it. Try to figure out something in their mind. One's ignorance can be removed by the instruction of the Bhagavad Gita, which teaches one to surrender unto Lord Sri Krishna in all respects and become liberated from the chained victimization of action and reaction. I love that. Chained victimization of action and reaction. We are victims of Maya Devi, and we are chained. We think this is great. We think this is really wonderful. We are like in, what it reminds me of? It reminds me of this. There's the allegory of the cave by Plato, the Greek philosopher. If you don't know this, the basic gist of it is that there are people who are chained to a rock, looking at a reflection from a fire, and they see the shadows on the rock, and they think the shadows are the reality. And then if somebody comes down, like maybe the devotee of Krishna, and says, hey, you're actually chained to a rock, and let me let you go. And some people might be, and some might not be. Like, what are you talking about, right? Those are the people that are just like, I'm enjoying myself. This is great. I'm looking at the reflection of this fire. I'm chained here, and I'm starving to death. But some people are like, oh, I'm there. Look at that. That was a fire. And so, but then the person who comes there says, hey, there's a way out of this cave. And some people may go, so this is different degrees of realization, spiritual realization. And once you come out and you see the higher reality. So it's not a perfect analogy, but it is very much like this, in the sense that what we were saying here about that surrendering unto Lord Krishna in all respects and become liberated from the chained victimization of action and reaction. So being chained down by Maya Devi to basically engage in something that is keeping us in this material world, that's keeping us suffering, keeping us facing these reactions of goodness, and like a bank account, we do good things, pious things, we have to pay off the pious karmic results later on in life, or in another life. Or if we do sinful activities, we have to do that. We constantly doing that. If we're not serving Krishna, if we're not engaging in service Krishna, which is like unplugging the fan of karmic reactions and the burning off of the karmic reactions, we're going to be continually making more and more karmic reactions. So we're stuck in this situation. Arjuna is advised to act in Krishna consciousness, the purifying process of resultant action. Okay, I think we have more time for one more here. Text 51. Karma. Karma jama. Buddhi yuktahi phalam tavaktva manishinaha janma bandha vinir muktaha padam gachanti anamayam karmajam, because of fruitive activities. Buddhi yuktaha, being done in devotional service. There's that word again, buddhi yukta. He, certainly, phalam, results, tavaktva. These are like consonants. Giving up, manishina, devotees who are great sages. So that comes from muni, right? Muni and mani, it's very close. Janma banda, the bondage of birth and death. Vinir muktaha, liberated souls. Padam, position. Gachanti, reach. Anamayam, without miseries. Translation: the wise engaged in devotional service take refuge in the Lord and free themselves from the cycle of birth and death by renouncing the fruits of actions in the material world. In this way, they can attain that state beyond all miseries. So the wise, or what does it actually say in here? Manishina, right? The devotees who are great sages. They are the wise. They are very wise, great devotees of Krishna who are engaged in this activity. Krishna is telling Arjuna, those people that are activity take refuge in me and free themselves from this karmic reactions of samsara, birth and death, this chained, what was the word again? Chained victimization of action and reaction. That's so great. Bhaktivedanta is a genius. So that's a cycle, and they're freeing themselves from this cycle, this chained victimization, by renouncing the fruits of action in the material world. And the best way to renounce the actions of fruit of is to engage in the service of Krishna. And the best way to do that is to chant Krishna's names, which we did in the beginning. Chant Krishna's names in this age, because so many other kinds of activities are very difficult to do in this age. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave us a very easy Sankirtan Yajna to engage in that will help free us from this cycle of birth and death. In this way, they can attain that state beyond all miseries. The purport: the liberated living entities seek that place where there are no material miseries. The Bhagavatam says, Shamshritya ye papalava falava. Sorry, my glasses are not so good. Mahat padam punya yasho murare babam budir vatsha padam param padam yad vipadam na tesham. So the Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 14th chapter, 58th verse. For one who has accepted the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the shelter of the cosmic manifestation, and is famous as Mukunda, or the giver of mukti, the ocean, that's the liberation. The ocean of the material world is like the water contained in a calf's hoof print. Param Padam, or the place where there are no material miseries, or Vaikuntha, is his goal, not the place where there is danger at every step of life. Beautiful, wonderful. So the boat of the lotus feet of our dear Sri Krishna, and the boat is also the lotus feet of our spiritual master, which helps carry us over the material world. And we think to get over the material world of our own endeavor is such a long, you look at, like, I live in Hawaii, so you can look out and you don't see anything, right? But you can take a boat out there for hundreds and thousands of miles and be out in a desert of water, and that's like, okay, I gotta swim all the way to Asia, I'm just going to swim because I'm an Olympic swimmer. No, you're not going to make it. But by the feet of dear Sri Krishna, Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, and our spiritual master, that boat, we take that boat, and that water distance becomes that of a hoof print. of a cow, so easily to cross over. And otherwise, it's a danger. There's danger at every step in life. So much danger, man. You can open up the news channel and just see how much danger there is on every single level. There is danger. There's psychological danger. There's physical danger. There's emotional danger. There's danger everywhere. And Bhaktivedanta Swami has said that there is danger at every step. You should be cautious about engaging in spiritual life, because the danger in this material world is so great. Owing to ignorance, one does not know that this material world is a miserable place where there are dangers at every step. I think it's funny too, to me, because people are really surprised that terrible things happen. It's like, as you become a devotee of Krishna, and you realize more and more how dangerous the illusion. It's like the mirage in the desert of thinking that this world is so wonderful. Oh, so beautiful, It's just like, I live in Hawaii, so very beautiful places, right? Or you see these videos of beautiful places, the Yosemite or whatever, and you don't realize that there's danger. Like, if you're caught in the middle of that, like if you're out there hiking, and this happens all the time, and you get lost or you get trapped. There was that movie where the guy was hiking up on this cliff of this like canyon, and he got, I think it was called 28, no, I can't remember, but maybe 25 days later or something. Or anyway, it was, he got caught, and a boulder fell down and caught his arm, so he was stuck, and it was his experience, right? He eventually had to cut his arm off. Danger at every step. He could have died. He could have starved out there. People do this all the time. They just like, oh, it's so beautiful out here. Or even just the matter of like observing nature at its greatest. It's like the greatest horror story. You're looking at these situations of these living entities trying to kill each other and eat each other. One bug comes along and chews off the head of another bug, and the vines are crawling over people trying to strangle other vines. So animals are chasing animals, and they kill them, and they rip their heart out. It's like, oh, beautiful nature, bacteria living off of each other, killing each other. It's like nature is the most hellish matter of existence. It's a danger for all living entities, owing to ignorance. And it's ignorance because as humans, we tend to have a little bit, especially if we live in places like America, with the first world countries, you don't have too many real difficult situations. You don't have to, fight for existence or whatever. You don't have to go out to the forest to find food every day. You just go to the grocery store and, but even there's danger, right? So you could be out in Texas and get flooded, like my friend who's lost their daughter who got washed away. So there's danger at every step. Owing to ignorance, one does not know that this material world is a miserable place where there are dangers at every step. Out of ignorance only, less intelligent persons try to adjust to the situation by fruit of activities, thinking that resultant actions will make them happy. So if they just figure, okay, to kind of like forget about this material thing, I'll just like try to engage in enjoyment in this material world to make myself happy. They do not know that no kind of material body anywhere within the universe can give life without miseries. So we're like, oh, we're going to eat all this great food, and then they're like, oh, God, it makes me sick, or I get food poisoning. I'm going to have sexual activity to the T and get like sexual transmitted diseases, or you get someone pregnant, or it's just like, you're like the CEO guy who's sleeping around with his HR guy, and his wife finds out, and he's basically embarrassed all over the internet, humiliated in front of everybody in the concert, Oh, my Davey's like, oh, she's kind of cute. She looks better than your wife. She could probably please you a lot better. You got money and you're the big guy, so you could probably get away with it. Wrong. The material miseries of life, namely birth, death, old age, and disease, are present everywhere within the material world, but one who understands his real constitutional position as the eternal servitor of the Lord, and thus knows the position of the personality of Godhead, engages himself in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So even then, you're protected by Krishna, but things can still happen. You will leave your body, and there will be bad things that still happen. But you're one focus. You're the wise engaged in devotional service. You know what the goal is. You know that at the end of this life, you can go back to Krishna. You can, by serving your spiritual master nicely, you can go back to Krishna. You can be pleasing to Krishna. That is the greatest treasure, despite what happens with your body. That's what Krishna was telling Arjuna. It was like, despite whatever happens to your body, you just give that sacrifice to me. The miseries, okay. Consequently, he becomes qualified to enter into the Vaikuntha planets, where there is neither material, miserable life nor the influence of time and death. To know one's constitutional position means to know also the sublime position of the Lord. One who wrongly thinks that the living entity's position and the Lord's position are on the same level is to be understood to be in darkness, and therefore unable to engage himself in the devotional service of the Lord. Without devotional service, you're not in your natural activity. So the last trap of Maya Devi is to basically, you may have a very spiritual life, you may do all these things, and then you come to the point and you're like, that's me, I'm God, I am God, we're all one God, and I am that. So there is no relationship with Krishna there. That's the greatest poison, actually. It's greater offense than anything else. One who wrongly... Okay, he becomes a lord himself and thus paves the way for the repetition of birth and death. But one who, understanding his position is to serve, transfers himself to the service of the Lord, at once becomes eligible for the Vaikuntha Loka. Service for the cause of the Lord is called the Karma Yoga, or Buddha Yoga, or in plain words, devotional service to the Lord. So we are preparing ourselves, and this chapter, we have more verses, maybe about 20 more, and we're going to get to it, but it's covering, that's why it says contents of the Gita summarized. So we're summarizing everything, but we're also preliminarily discussing Karma Yoga. And so we have about 20 more verses, to that, and we'll continue with them next time. Very wonderful, very awesome to meditate upon. Thank you very much. Jai Shri Krishna, Jai Shri Prabhupada, Hari Bol.